Hey guys, what's up? It's Shao Style, or Joseph, or Joe the Editor, how the fuck you want to know me as. Either way, in this video, I wanted to talk about pretty much maintaining order on your computer with having like multiple storage drives. Now, just right off the bat, I'll admit I'm pretty OCD on certain things. Trying to keep things organized and whatnot. There's a specific way of how I like things to be, for me. So don't see this as something that you must do. So see this as something that maybe you should try and for yourself to see if it works for you, to maintain like a little bit of order on your computer and whatnot. So one thing I like to do when I'm working is that I like to have the task manager open, right? I like seeing pretty much what the progress on my computer is as I'm working and whatnot. I just like to see how the progress on my computer is, right? When you have an SSD that's, has like files where it's reading from and also is reading towards, say if you're rendering something, so if it's reading the files of one SSD and at the same time is writing the data inside the one SSD, pretty much like depending on the speed of your SSD, they can create a bottleneck in the sense that your SSD could be maxed out because it's being used in both directions. It's being read from and it has data being written into at the same time, right? So I have certain SSD storage where like it'll be maxed out and like it'll be like at 100%, and then like the render times could take longer than I would expect them to, right? So I have multiple device storage for like certain things. So that way, pretty much when my computer gets to read from a specific SSD, instead of reading and writing into one storage drive, it's reading from one storage drive and is writing into another. That way, pretty much there's kind of like a constant flow of information that doesn't like hinder like the rendering process or anything like that, right? So pretty much in this video, what I want to talk about is my storage devices, how many I have and why. If your motherboard has the capability of connecting multiple storage devices, then I'll let you know why it'll be a good investment for yourself as an editor to like have multiple storage devices, right? So okay, so pretty much here you can see I have a total of 9 like storage devices. I have the list here of what I'm using right now. To start out with, SSDs are almost like a must nowadays when you want to store your operating system into it, right? So for the local disk, I got the Samsung SD850 EVO, the 250 gigabyte. Now for me, I dedicate this SSD strictly for all my software. Pretty much anything that I use to edit, it goes directly into this SSD, and that's it. I don't store pictures into it. I don't store any type of like any form of information that's not software related. I try to keep this SSD as clean as possible. I just want to make sure that it doesn't get cluttered with crap. Nothing else besides software. For my main storage device, mainly I just using a Seagate NAS, 3 terabyte. As you can see, like the price for them, nothing major, but like it's 3 terabytes. So like depending where you buy them, the price can range, significantly, right? But obviously this storage device is not the fastest, but I do use this mainly for the space, right? So when I get footage from like either Paul or Kyle, whomever I'm working with at the moment, I pretty much just store me here as a backup, right? I also have like a 4K assets, sound effects, visual effects stuff, anything that I may use in the future. I usually store them here as a backup, right? And I got 3 terabytes, and it does help big time. Once I'm working with the raw footage, I have a dedicated SSD, so I can dump all my footage so the computer can read from this specific SSD, my raw footage F drive. For my raw footage SSD, I'm using the Samsung SSD 840 Pro series. Now, since I usually edit with 4K files, pretty much I want to make sure I have a fast SSD so like the computer can read off from very as quickly as possible, right? I mean, like if you have a mechanical drive, nothing wrong with it, but I do expect some like some slow time or some hiccups or it's gonna lag a bit. This has been my experience in the past, so I have a dedicated SSD to like store all my raw footage into, right? Now, when I import my raw footage into my Premiere Pro, something that I started to do is create proxies. I'm gonna do another video separate about explain to you the benefit of using proxies, right? But I have a separate SSD to like store all my proxies into, right? Because when you create the proxies that I use is Cineform. Cineform is a lossless file, meaning it's almost like raw in the sense of like it's not compressed. So what that does, it helps the computer to read the file because it's not compressed. So it kind of like since it's not compressed, it's pretty much it reads the file as is, which is a lot quicker. Whereas when you have a file that's kind of compressed, Premiere Pro has to spend the time to like decompress it in a way to like read the file. So it kind of like it minimizes like the process of reading the file when you have it in Cineform. Also, I noticed the Cineform pretty much it's just very smooth. It's just a great playback. And like I said, I'll create a different video to like explain to you the benefits of using Cineform. So for this drive, I'm using the Corsair Neutron XT SSD. That one has like 400 250 gigabytes of capacity, but yeah, it's a pretty fast SSD. And like I said, like when you're rendering, pretty much like it renders directly into this SSD and like it reads off it. So it's pretty awesome. So I got my raw footage. So when I render, it reads off this SSD, but when I create proxies, it reads off this SSD, right? And then pretty much when I'm done, I can just double click it. I got my proxy folder. I can highlight everything. I'll delete them. No big deal. And there you go. It's clean. I also got some 3D assets here, like models and stuff like that for Cinema 4D or for Element 3D stored in here. So, but I mainly use this for proxies. Like I said, I'm pretty OCD, so I wanted to have like something like separate from my video games. Now, I don't play video games that much, but when I do, I got myself I got a Western Digital Black 1 terabyte mechanical hard drive. And yeah, this thing's pretty awesome. Like for a mechanical hard drive, it is pretty fast, and I'm pretty glad I got it. Yeah, I got mine at Micro Center, and like, yeah, it's definitely worth it for video games. I'm pretty happy that I got it. So, some video games can, take up a lot of space. So I should rather have, enough space for my video games. Yeah, and then like the load times are pretty fast as well. So I'm very happy that I got this, for my video games. I do have some backup files that I have stored here. What I have stored into my my other NAS 3 terabyte hard drive. Only what I feel is important, I have it stored here just in case, right? It's better to have like multiple copies than just one, but it doesn't take up that much space. So far I only got like maybe 5 games, but so I got plenty of space. I got 2 storage devices, 2 USB storage devices. One is a Corsair Voyager 3.0 US device, and also Kingston DT Ultimate USB device, right? Now, one of them is my work assets, so pretty much like music, stuff that I use, say for Paul, like, say specific sounds, music, watermarks, the intro to every video. Pretty much I have this in one USB storage device. If I download something off the internet that I'm using an image, I put it here in the temp files, something that I can like save for later or whatnot. So the reason why I have these connected to my computer, is because like say if when me and Paul, we need to go somewhere, I can take these 2 storage devices. I just, unplug them from my computer and then take them with me, because I got other things in this work as USB, music that I can take, sound effects, and also some other visual effects stuff that I can use, right? If somebody needs my help, I can just, unplug it from a computer and take them with me. And because they're USBs, they can fit in my pocket. So, and I definitely use these 2 as I'm working. So, very convenient. The next thing I got is I recently bought this too, is an M.2 SSD. And this one is I'm using the Samsung SSD 960 EVO 250 gigabyte. Now, one thing I noticed going back to like bottlenecks or whatnot is that Premiere Pro and After Effects, they create a lot of cache files. Cache files is something that the software uses, so it does have to like recreate every single thing that it does. It works as a memory, so cache files are basically memory for your software. In this case, After Effects and Premiere Pro, which is what I use, right? So primarily After Effects, it creates a lot of like cache files, especially for me, because when I work on stuff, I usually tend to use a lot of glows and lights and whatnot. So all my files are usually in 32-bit, because like the glows and lights, they look a lot better when you work at 32-bit instead of 8-bit. So it does create like a lot of cache files, and it takes up a lot of space, right? However, I did notice that specific projects, I was maxing out my SSD because it was both reading and writing at the same time. So I believe I was using the Corsair Neutron to store all my cache files, and then like on a certain projects that I'll do with After Effects, I'll see it'll be maxed out at 100%, and like it'll just take forever to like render or to like create the cache files and whatnot. So that's when I decided to actually buy the Samsung SSD 960 EVO, the M.2, because those things work faster, obviously. So since I started using that, I did notice a difference. Is it huge? No, because like the CPU still has to take time to create the files. However, I did notice that like the render times or creating the cache did not take as long as it did when I was using a regular SSD storage device. So for me using the M.2 for my cache files mainly has been a major benefit. Finally, pretty much I recently bought a PNY CS 900 120 gigabyte SSD. The reason why I got this is because originally I was storing all my project files on my local disk, right? But I was just like taking up space little by little, and like I didn't want to do that anymore, because like I said, I'm OCD like that. So I bought a separate SSD to store all my project files in here, right? So pretty much everything here gets stored. Now, something I'm gonna start doing is in Premiere Pro, when you open the project files, you could direct where you want to send all your autosave files at. At the moment, I got it all here, but thinking about it, if something was to happen to the SSD, then I'm gonna lose pretty much all my project files. So if I load my original project files here, and then I was to direct the autosave files to, let's say, my M.2 cache. So now I have a backup. So if this SSD was to go to shit, then I can like just open up like the most recent like backup file, the autosave file from like say my M.2 like cache SSD, and there you go. I'm able to like open it up again, so I won't completely lose all my files. I'm gonna start doing that. So yeah, there's definitely benefits to having multiple storage devices. It does help with render times because when you create a bunch of, say like the M.2, right? All the cache files that it creates when you render out the file, it does use the cache file to help with the rendering process. So having a fast M.2 card, it pretty much, it helps us speed up the rendering time a bit more. So again, this is not to like show, look how much shit I got on my connected to computer. Pretty much, honestly, I started with maybe 2 SSDs and one, hard drive. But then as I started working, like I started to like see the graphs on my computer, like to see where there's like a hiccup, or what like SSD card or what storage device was, being maxed out as I was rendering something. That's when I started to like decide to spread out like the work on like a multiple SSD cards. That way, instead of reading and writing from one storage device, it reads from one and it writes to another. That way kind of like it keeps everything running smoothly without any problems. So that's been my experience with that. So yeah, definitely, keep your files, keep your computer clean. Don't let it clutter up with a bunch of shit that you don't need. I've been guilty of that. And pretty much, when you want to find something, it becomes a pain in the ass. And then like, you run out of space. You don't necessarily know where all the files are at, so you can like delete stuff. Part of the reason why I like having one storage device for my cache files, I just click on it, go to Adobe. I could delete all my cache files from like say After Effects. Say 256 items. Get rid of them. Boom. And you can see how much space it freed up. Like I said, because After Effects does use up a lot of space with storage devices and whatnot with the cache. So definitely direct your cache files to another storage device or to a specific folder so you can reach to them. So you can reach them later. That way you can delete them later easily. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you this time. I'm definitely gonna focus on creating more videos to help you guys out for any editors or kids are starting out and whatnot. I'm definitely more than happy to help. So feel free to like ask me questions. Hit me up on Facebook. Check out my Twitter and Instagram. Thanks again and take care. Peace.